Delivery driver's 15-minute rule helped lonely seniors. Then they helped him. Marcus Patterson's scanner chirped the same way it always did. He stepped onto a porch, balanced a box against his hip, set it down by the mat, and reached for the doorbell. That morning, the air had a sharp edge to it, the kind that made you zip up without thinking. Before he pressed the button, the door opened. "Good," the woman said, right on time. Her name was Mrs. Tennyson. Marcus knew because she'd corrected him once, gently, like she was saving him from a future embarrassment. She wore a faded cardigan and had her hair pinned back with the kind of clip that looked older than both of them. She didn't reach for the box right away. She looked at his face. "Cold out there," she said. "Yep," Marcus said. "I'm learning to blink slower so my eyes don't freeze." Her laugh came back quick, surprised, like she hadn't expected to laugh at all. Then she started talking. Not the usual pleasantries, more like she'd been waiting for a listener. She told him about her niece's cat knocking over a ceramic figure in the living room and how she'd glued it back together. You could still see the crack if you knew where to look, she said, and she said it like it mattered. Marcus nodded, smiled, listened, and handed over the box. And then he did what the job trained him to do. He turned to leave. As he walked down the steps, he felt that small pull he'd felt before. Not guilt exactly, more like a question that didn't have a neat answer. Why did this keep happening? On his route, there were a few houses like Mrs. Tennyson's. Seniors who opened the door fast as if they'd been standing behind it. People who held the moment longer than the delivery required. People who started a story and then slowed down near the end, like they were checking whether they'd taken too much time. Mr. Alvarez always found a reason to bring out his pen, even when the delivery didn't need a signature. Mrs. Kim asked him questions with obvious answers. "Is it Tuesday?" she'd say, squinting up at the sky like the weather might confirm it. And Henderson, his mailbox only said Henderson, would start a story, pause, and then say, "I won't keep you," while still standing in the doorway. At first, Marcus thought it was just friendliness. Some people liked talking. Some people grew up that way. But after a while, the pattern stopped feeling random. It was the same people. Every delivery, every time. He realized something simple, and it sat heavier than he expected. For some of them, he might be the only person they spoke to that day. Nobody said it out loud. There were no speeches, no big confessions. It showed up in the pauses, in the way someone's shoulders eased when he stayed a few seconds longer, in the way they watched him walk back to the truck like the day was closing behind him. One afternoon during his break, Marcus sat in his truck with his lunch in his lap and didn't eat for a while. He thought about Mrs. Tennyson's laugh, about Henderson's careful, "I won't keep you," about how often he'd been the moving part in someone else's still day. He didn't think, "I'm going to change the world." He thought, "I can stop disappearing so fast." So he talked to his supervisor, Denise, at the end of a shift. "I want to use my breaks differently," he said. Denise looked at him in the way supervisors look when they've heard a lot of unusual plans that begin with good intentions and end with paperwork. "I've noticed 5 seniors on my route," Marcus said. "They seem alone. A lot. I'd like to check on them, use my breaks, 15 minutes each, and make sure they're okay." Denise didn't answer right away. "You know, we deliver packages," she said. "I know," Marcus replied, "but I'm already at their doors. 15 minutes. I'll keep it tight." Denise tapped her pen just once against the desk. 15, and you stay on schedule. I'm not taking the heat because your route turns into a handyman service." "No handyman," Marcus said. "Just check in. Lightbulb, high shelf, or listening." Denise's mouth twitched like she was trying not to smile. "Document your breaks like you always do." "And Marcus?" "Yeah," he said. If you start bringing anyone soup, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear about it." He nodded. "Fair." He started the next day. At Mrs. Tennyson's, he didn't just hand her the box. He asked, "Do you need anything while I'm here?" She blinked at him. "You have time?" "I have 15 minutes. It's a rule I'm trying." She looked past him like she was checking if the street had changed without her noticing. Then she said, "Well, if you're making rules, I suppose we should use them." She had him replace a hallway bulb. She watched him reach up like he was doing something delicate, not simple. At Mr. Alvarez's, Marcus carried a heavy case of water into the kitchen. Mr. Alvarez thanked him more times than made sense. "You're allowed to accept help," Marcus told him. Mr. Alvarez frowned, considering it like a new idea, but then he smiled. At Mrs. Kim's, there wasn't much to fix, so she just talked. She described the first apartment she and her husband shared, the wallpaper pattern, the way the kitchen window stuck in the winter. She mentioned her husband singing while shaving, she said, off-key as always, and she smiled the way people smile when they're looking at someone who isn't in the room anymore. Marcus stayed. At first, it felt strange in his body. His day was built on motion. Scan, step, photo, gone. His muscles expected to keep moving. But inside those homes, time moved differently. The air wasn't full of engines and deadlines. It was full of small details that didn't need to be efficient. 15 minutes wasn't a lot, but it was enough. Enough for someone's shoulders to drop. Enough for a room to feel less quiet in the wrong way. Enough for a person to feel like they hadn't been forgotten by the calendar. He kept the rule. Denise watched his times. The routes stayed intact. And slowly, something else began to happen. The seniors started mentioning each other. "The woman down the street," Mrs. Tennyson asked once, like she didn't want to sound nosy. "Mrs. Kim?" Marcus said. Mrs. Tennyson nodded. "Is she doing all right?" Another day, Henderson said, "That man with the water bottles, he okay?" Marcus realized he meant Mr. Alvarez. "He's okay," Marcus said. "Knee's bothering him. He's stubborn about it." Henderson gave a small grunt that might have been sympathy. It might have been recognition. Marcus didn't force introductions. He didn't make it a project. He just made it normal for them to know there were other people on the street with names and routines and bad knees and sticky windows. Then a winter storm rolled in. Not a dramatic one, but just enough snow and ice to slow everything down and make everyone a little more careful. Marcus's truck stalled halfway down the street and refused to restart. He called dispatch. He called Denise. He sat there with his hands around the steering wheel, watching the snow collect all along the curb. He thought about the 5 houses, not like a hero, but like a person who knew the pattern of their days. He wondered if they had heat. He wondered if they had groceries. He wondered if anyone had checked in. His phone buzzed. Denise. "Your 5 are calling," she said. "My 5? "Mrs. Tennyson called first," Denise continued. "Then Mr. Alvarez. Then someone who didn't give a first name just asked if you were stuck somewhere. They started calling each other." Marcus stared out through the windshield. "They called each other?" "Apparently," Denise said. "One of them has a neighbor's number now. Another has a daughter's number. They're making sure everyone's accounted for." In the quiet cab, Marcus pictured it. Mrs. Tennyson deciding it was worth picking up the phone. Mr. Alvarez dialing someone he'd never dialed before. Henderson, who barely spoke in a doorway, deciding it mattered enough to reach out. It was the same choice Marcus had made months earlier, just repeated by different hands. A tow truck arrived. Marcus got back late, cold and tired, boots wet around the edges. Denise handed him a cup of coffee and said, "They want to know you're safe." Marcus smiled. "Tell them I'm fine." "They believe it when they hear it from you," Denise said, and she didn't sound annoyed. In the weeks after, the calls kept happening. Not constantly, not like a sudden burst of new friendships that burned out, more like something steady. If lights stayed on too long, someone knocked. If mail piled up, someone checked. If the weather turned, they asked, "Do you need anything?" No flyers, no meetings, no big announcement. Just a habit that grew because somebody started it, and then other people decided to keep it going. Marcus still delivered packages, the scanner still chirped. But now when he walked back down a porch, he sometimes glanced through a window and saw something small. A lamp on in the afternoon, a kettle steaming, someone sitting with a phone to their ear, listening and being listened to. 15 minutes, 5 doors, and a street that learned quietly to pay attention. The line Marcus carried with him wasn't grand, it wasn't plain, and it felt true every time he stepped off a porch. A little time is still time. Be happy stories, everyday kindness, real warmth. Thanks for listening.